to Contemporary Black Voices. My name is Dr. Sharon Michael Chadwell. And on today's discussion, we're doing a deeper dive into the topic of reparations. So, Caleb,
hmm
can you kind of recap what you were
hmm
saying and finish it out?
Sure. So I think we were talking about the case for why reparations is owed, and so I think we kind of laid out a case that it's systemic. And so again, what we're saying, where you can't point to each individual, each as a collective, uh, this country benefited, and those individual folks have benefited from this country economically, which of course is a result of that slave labor. But and I'll go ahead and defer because I know Professor Dockery was talking again about basically uh, how do we
Logistically.
right, and so I'll go ahead and defer because I know Professor Williams had an additional question.
No, mine was kind of addressed at Sharon uh, for clarification. In your opening statement, you pointed out the Republicans' problem. Then you said Democrats have a deeper problem, but you didn't say what it was.
Well, from the Republican perspective, they're not against it, but their focus is more on self-reliance, taking care of yourself. You know, they didn't say they were against it because my buddy here says he'll take the money.
Hey, give me my check.
You know, but the focus is more on self-reliance. But from the Democrats, uh, they're, you know, they, of course, they want to, you know, the black Democrats, they want the money, but the Democratic Party's problem is that there is an issue with the black vote, and they may lose black votes because of this one topic not being resolved or addressed.
Yeah, that is hopefully at a later date we can take on this whole self-reliant issue, because I believe this whole self-reliant fits right into the whole idea of reparations. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You have to have some bootstraps.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole idea of reparations would be to give blacks that money so that they could pull themselves by their bootstraps and could become self-reliant. And so it's like a catch-21 situation. You can't pull yourself up, and they're not going to give it to you. They're not going to approve of reparations. We know that. And it's not just the Republican Party. I think it's a Democratic Party too, because a lot of Democrats are not in favor of reparations. But this idea that, well, to me, all respect for your friend. I'm just making a general
Oh, yes.
statement. To me, for white people to say I didn't have slaves is a cop out. We know you didn't have slaves. The issue is, does this country and the government that sanctions slavery should be the body we go after, because they sanctioned it. And if we can give $60 billion to Israel, and the idea, well, we never lived in Israel either, but we're giving them $60 billion. And so it's not the fact that we don't have the money. A white person's tax-paying money is going to Israel,
Mm-hmm.
so it could go to black people. So, I mean, that's my take on it.
And I think what Dr. Chadwell was saying about the vote, and what we have to understand is when you have, and I call it the hat trick, when you have the White House, you have the Senate, and you have the Congress, that is the time when either party can vote it through and no one can do anything about it, because you control all the houses of everything. But every time that has happened in history where you had the Democrats with the White House, with the Congress, with the Senate, it never comes up. Republicans either. What normally happens is, as we get closer to a election year, it comes up again. It surfaces. It's reparations. We need to do more, trying to draw the vote back to them.
So what
And
you're
so-
saying, basically, what, you know, Chris would probably say this is that our leadership is not taking advantage of the gateway.
Mhm.
If we had all Democrats, that's the time for, I'm gonna go ahead and say, the Black Caucus
Mhm.
to go in there and support the demand. Or if it's all Republican, that's the point where you go in
Absolutely.
there. But when you have any type of division of force here, it becomes more challenging.
And it becomes more political because what happens is now it's like what you have right now. You have the White House and you have the Senate and the Democrat, Congress is Republican. So now you can come out and say, you know, brother, I am really for reparations. We need to do something to get this money to the people who deserve it. But those Republicans, man, they're just not going to vote it in. But when you owned all three, you did nothing.
Well, there's one catch there, unfortunately.
Go ahead.
You have to have a veto-proof Senate, and you hardly ever have that. You need to have 60, I don't think we've had 60 Democrats since the Civil Rights
It's been a while.
movement. Yeah. And unless they do away with the filibuster, what they're not about to do for reparations.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah.
So the other thing, the last time the last time the Democrats did control the House, the Senate, and the White House was during the first Obama administration. And so at that time, we were trying. The administration was trying to save the world from a global recession. So they had other issues. You know what I mean? They were trying to save Ford, GM, Chrysler, the airlines, and everybody else, the banking industry, the insurance industry. So their priorities were a little bit different at that time. And also during that administration, they were trying to pass universal health care. And so they already had a pretty big agenda.
But actually, they had it under Biden administration. His first 2 years before the midterm elections,
Right.
they had the hat trick. And what did they push through? Climate change.
Well, they didn't really have it. I mean, yeah,
That
they
majority
did.
was
You have to have those 60 votes in the Senate. If you don't have that,
Yeah.
you're going to end up with a filibuster. And what's strange, you see, before the filibuster you had to be up there and stay and debate. Now all you have to do is I check
Tag team.
filibuster, boom.
Yeah.
You don't even have to go to the floor, you don't have to do anything. You just have to sit there. And that's what makes the filibuster so powerful, today.
Yeah.
And that's what would have happened to Biden. On the other issue, I guess I would address this to you, Caleb. Didn't Black people benefit from the saving of GM, Ford, and
Absolutely.
Chrysler? Okay.
Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. So
Jobs.
he had to
Jobs.
save the world
Had
from
to
a global another Great Depression. So I think he kind of had his hands full a little bit. But
all I was saying is that he could have mentioned it. That was the time to at least throw it out there because you holding all the cards.
well, I mean, and so I know the other thing I want before we run out of time though. My thing is this. So if we're looking at the sausage making, on this thing. There's a couple of ways we can actually do this, and I think that would be passable. And one is through, again, I know we talked about this and you don't agree, but through education. They can run it through a Reparative Justice Education Act, which makes college. I mean, I understand a community college, local college is free. Pretty much you can go there. But if you want to go to college out of state, you know what I mean? So a Reparative Justice Education Act, which guarantees educational funding for Black folks. The other form of reparative justice, the other thing we were denied was housing and building wealth through housing. So they can have a similar program that's either equivalent to a Fannie Freddie program that guarantees maybe a low interest housing loan. They can run a program through FDA that guarantees low or zero interest rural agricultural farming loans.
Yes, I understand that. However, all of those programs depends on who's in office and how long. And then when you start talking about a number of years,
Right.
it can.
Well, I mean, you can run it for 200 years. However long we were, however long we were in bond, that's how long you run that program. But I mean, I think that it'd be more palatable to say, you know what? I mean, you can appeal to a lot of stuff. You can appeal to racism. It says you could either pay for prison or you can pay for college. And so if you want to, it's an honest conversation. You know what I mean? And so if you look at the poverty, it brings statistically, you know what I'm saying, the outcomes, who's more likely to end up in prison. We already understand the statistics.
But on that, as long as white people are in control, they're going to go for the prison. know that.
But here's the
They-
deal.
they- they
But if
vote
you
for the-
again,
for
but
the
if
reasons.
you, it depends on how you appeal to them. Because again, if you appeal to their racism, I got time right here. So if you appeal to their racism, you can just put like this. Look, we can and appeal to their pockets because they understand this. We can house a prisoner for $15,000 to $20,000 a year for the next 20 or 30 years, or we can invest in a college education for 4 years, and after that 4th year, they're going to be contributing to the tax base.
I want to, I guess, have the last word, but that's a discussion we have to have. We have to have because the question is, everybody got a bachelor's degree. What would a bachelor's degree mean?
Let me
But
throw
I
this
won't
last
go there.
question for him to close out with. So, if Trump becomes the president, will he take advantage of that position to give us our money? What do you think?
Well, I think to have someone to push through reparations, you would need a president that's strong, bold, and has nothing to lose. I mean, think about it. Trump would only have 4 years. He can't be realistic. He can't do it again. It's over. He doesn't have to worry about political nothing. So why not?
Can I ask one last?
Yes.
As a military guy, when he says he's going to be a dictator for one day and supplant the Constitution, or when he says something like he would encourage the Russians to attack NATO, or he says stuff like he wants to pull out of NATO. As a military guy, what are your thoughts on that?
NATO needs to pay their part. We've been paying for years and years, and they just keep saying, well, we know America's going. It's like having that family member that always needs something. You keep giving them money. They just keep coming back.
And so, with that being said, I want to thank you for coming to listen to us on Contemporary Black Voices, where our discussion today was a deeper dive into reparations. And I want to thank Ben Dockery.
And I want to thank you.